A diagnosis of mesothelioma can initially be devastating. One is often left feeling alone and afraid. This is completely natural and understandable. However, as one learns that the disease was preventable, the corporations had full knowledge of the dangers of asbestos exposure for decades, had access to alternatives, and yet did nothing to protect their workers, such feelings of fear and loneliness can give way to righteous rage. Despite the lobbying efforts of the corporations involved in the production and use of asbestos-containing products, the law still provides remedies. If you are a victim of asbestos exposure, you have the right to hold these corporations accountable and recover your medical expenses, your loss of income due to the inability to work, and compensation for your pain and suffering. In many cases, you may also be able to get punitive damages as well. Getting started. Although you may be reeling from the shock of a mesothelioma diagnosis, it is vitally important to start thinking about filing your claim as soon as possible. This is because all states have a statute of limitations, a period of time within which you must file for legal action or forfeit your right to do so. The statute of limitations begins when you are diagnosed and lasts from 1 to 3 years depending on the state. Therefore, you should start seeking the services of an attorney or law firm that specializes in asbestos litigation at the earliest opportunity. Asbestos liability is considered a mature tort in legal terms, which means that such personal injury litigation has been carried on long enough to establish case law and precedent. Therefore, you should have little trouble finding qualified legal professionals able to represent your interests. This is not to say that you should simply enter the terms asbestos lawyer and your state into your favorite search engine and call the first firm that appears on your computer screen. There is a great deal at stake for you and your family. The choice of counsel should never be made lightly. The best way to find legal representation is to call your state bar association. This is a professional organization that can provide you with several recommendations. Plan on meeting with lawyers from several different firms and interview them as an employer would interview any prospective employee. Find out how much experience they have in asbestos litigation and what their success rate has been. Above all, trust your own feelings in the matter. Your lawyer is someone with whom you'll be working closely with for many months. He or she should be someone in whom you can trust and confide without reservations. Additional resources. In addition to filing a complaint against the responsible party, you also have the right to file a disability claim with Social Security. This is money to which you are entitled. Workers earning less than $97,500 per year must pay 12.4% of their income into this fund, plus an additional 2.9% into Medicare. Contrary to what you may hear from some critics, this is not an entitlement or welfare program. It is a form of social insurance into which you have paid and have therefore earned. If your claim is denied, your attorney can assist you in appealing the decision. Most states also have a workers' compensation program. If you are a victim of asbestos exposure as a result of your job, you may file a workers' compensation claim against your former employer. Again, this is something with which your attorney can be of assistance. If you were covered by some type of health coverage, you can almost certainly expect the insurer to find any excuse to reduce compensatory payments for your medical care or drop your coverage altogether. That is because the U.S. healthcare system, except for Medicare and the VA program, is designed to make profits, not to make people well. If you are fortunate, your insurer will honor its commitments. If not, you should know that many states have laws in place that permit you to bring suit against a bad faith insurer. In the meantime, many hospitals have discharge planners, staff members whose function it is to help patients deal with coverage and payment issues. Be prepared. While your attorney will do everything that he or she can in order to ensure that you receive justice, you will need to be involved in the process. Gather as much documentation as you can pertinent to your exposure to asbestos and subsequent illness. Make sure your diagnosis has been performed by an experienced oncologist using legitimate scientific medical procedures, and that at least 2 other physicians, one of which should be your primary care physician and the other a pathologist, concur. Such a diagnosis will add substantial credibility and strengthen your case.
Thank you for watching. This video was produced by Asbestos.Net, a leading resource on all aspects of asbestos and mesothelioma. Our priority is to inform victims about the devastating effects of asbestos exposure, mesothelioma, asbestos cancer, asbestosis, and other asbestos-related diseases, and to advise them with a wealth of information. Individuals whose lives have been touched by mesothelioma have numerous questions and concerns. Their caregivers and family members also need accurate, reliable information. If you or a loved one have been diagnosed with mesothelioma or asbestos cancer and need more information, we invite you to visit and explore the thousands of pages of oncologist-reviewed material on Asbestos.net, to call our convenient toll-free number shown below and speak with a mesothelioma specialist, or to use the simple contact form found at Asbestos.net to request a free copy of our informative books, custom inserts, and DVD. Asbestos.net. Information and help for patients and families.